The text message arrived in the middle of the afternoon just as Isosa was helping a regular client choose a bouquet of lilacs and ranunculus. Her floral studio, the Bloom Branch, sat right by the bus stop across from the old community clinic. It looked simple enough from the outside, deep navy panels and a sign with elegant gold script. But the business brought in serious money, especially during the high season. Isosa had started from a single folding table and buckets of chrysanthemums. Now she had a loyal client base, high-end wedding contracts, corporate accounts, and even a small dedicated team. She had built this empire herself, dollar by dollar. Back in her youth, she had been inspired by her grandfather Hilliard, who grew prize-winning peas in Dallas in his garden in North Carolina. She had always dreamed of working with living beauty. That dream had come true. Only no one had warned her that she would eventually have to go to war to protect it. A notification flashed on her phone screen. "I'm leaving you, old woman, flying to South Beach tomorrow with my assistant." I drained the joint account. "Don't be mad, LOL." Neither her hands nor her eyes betrayed her nerves. Isosa calmly finished tying the twine around the bouquet and gave the customer a warm, professional smile. As soon as the woman stepped out, Isosa typed a simple one-word reply: "Good luck." She was 39 years old and 12 years into her marriage. The husband she had once spent nights with painting the walls of the brownstone her grandfather left her had decided to run off with his latest obsession. It was a girl named Auntie, a 20-year-old assistant from his office who was young enough to be his daughter. Isosa had first noticed her back in the winter during a corporate holiday party. Imani had been chirping away in a dress that was 2 sizes too small, with lips that looked like they had just been plumped at a cheap clinic and dusted with too much highlighter. It was a fresh look, sure, but completely unnatural. A face where arrogance tried to hide total naivety. Isosa had just watched from a distance back then. Now everything clicked. Over the last few months, Wami had undergone a strange transformation. He started wearing tailored shirts, swapped his signature scent for an expensive heavy oud, lived at the gym, and started speaking in manifestation catchphrases he clearly got from TikTok. His phone suddenly became private property, and their savings began to evaporate. But Isosa wasn't naive. 3 months ago, she had opened a private account and moved everything she had saved over the years into it. She left just enough in the joint account to keep him from getting suspicious, a distraction to make it seem like business as usual. Even then, she had started compiling a paper trail, bank statements, receipts, screenshots of his messages, and photos. Everything a lawyer might need. Isosa dialed her attorney and longtime friend, Zuri. "The time has come," Isosa said. "Let's pull the trigger." "Perfect," Zuri replied. "The filing is ready. I'll submit it tomorrow. You want me to serve him the papers while he's at the resort in Miami? No rush. Let him think he's in control for now. I actually want to see how long he can survive in that little fantasy of his." Wami couldn't help himself. The messages kept coming. "It'll probably be hard for you without me. You're not exactly a spring chicken anymore. At least you have your little flower stall to keep you busy. You won't get too lonely." A flower stall? He called the Bloom Branch a stall, even though that business brought in more revenue than his position as a procurement manager ever did. The business was entirely in Isosa's name. Everything from the permits to the tax IDs. He thought she was just playing with flowers for fun, having no idea what a single high-end wedding installation with peas and eucalyptus actually cost. That night, she stayed at her house. The brownstone belonged to her. It had been left to her in the will of her grandfather, a retired railroad engineer. Wayne had tried to convince her to put his name on the deed many times just in case. Every time she had laughed it off. Now, she thanked her intuition. Among her papers, she found their old wedding album. Wami looked different in those photos, alive, with a kind, genuine smile. That was before the midlife crisis set in, and his obsession with appearing young took over. Now he looked almost comical in his skin-tight sweaters and the trendy sneakers teenagers wore. The messages kept buzzing in. "I've thought it through. Imani understands me like no one else. You don't, but you'll manage. Maybe you'll find someone your own age. I already told my family. They support me. You have to understand, Isosa. We grew apart a long time ago. You just don't attract me as a woman anymore. It's a natural process. Women age. Men get better with time." Isosa took screenshot after screenshot, filing them into a digital folder titled For the Judge. That night, Isosa didn't sleep much. Her Chartre cat, a moody little thing with a round face and a demanding attitude, jumped onto her pillow and curled up, purring loudly. Kame had never liked animals. He complained about the fur and the smell. He would even forget to fill the food bowl when Isosa wasn't home. As she stroked the cat's warm fur, she realized these were the red flags she had ignored. A man who can't love an animal is rarely capable of truly loving anyone. The phone vibrated again. A new message from Kami. By the way, I used your card to book the flights and the suite at the Admiral Palms. Consider it your parting gift to me. LOL. It felt loud and arrogant, like a slap through the screen. Isosa smirked and reached for her laptop. 5 minutes later, she was on the phone with the bank's fraud department. Good evening. I need to report unauthorized charges on my card and cancel it immediately. Of course, ma'am. Can you specify the transactions? 2 business-class tickets from New York to Miami, and a 3-night reservation at the Admiral Palms Resort. It's a luxury suite. Do you have confirmation that you didn't authorize this? I have written messages from the individual admitting he took the funds from a joint account without consent and used my personal credit card to fund a trip with a third party. The operator couldn't hide the slight edge of satisfaction in her voice. Thank you. We will reverse the charges and flag the individual in our system for unauthorized activity. While Amani, that poor deluded girl, was posting Instagram stories with captions like "Trip of a lifetime with my king" and "To the edge of the world with him," Aosa was adding those stories to her evidence pile. A pretty shallow girl with a Barbie face and the depth of a 3-sentence paragraph. The court would find those posts very interesting. Isosa opened a bottle of dry white wine, a reserve from a black-owned vineyard in Napa she had been saving for a special occasion. She poured herself a glass. Tomorrow would be a celebration for her. For him it would be reality, and reality was going to be as dry as the wine, but much more bitter. As she was making a list of her assets, another masterpiece arrived from Wami. I'm a generous guy. You can stay in the house for now until you find something smaller. Isosa actually laughed out loud. He had apparently forgotten that the house was her inheritance, documented and deed, long before he arrived. His ego had grown so large he convinced himself that because he lived there, he owned it. Then came another. And we can settle the shop thing like adults. Half of the business is mine. I'm the one who put up with you being gone for days at a time working. She silently took the screenshot. This one went into a special folder for Audacity. The floral business was hers. She had filed the LLC. She had paid the taxes. She had been on her knees in the dirt with her grandfather when they set up the first greenhouse. Meanwhile, had been sitting on the couch drinking beer, complaining that she should get a real job. By morning, exactly as she expected, the tone of the messages changed. What the hell did you do? The tickets are void. The hotel canceled the reservation. None of my cards are working. She turned her phone off. Friday was her busiest day, and a fresh shipment of PS was waiting at the Bloom branch. Life goes on. Even if your husband runs off to Florida with his secretary. By noon, her phone rang. The screen showed Mrs. Greer. Isosa wiped her hands on her apron. Her heart skipped a beat. Her mother-in-law never called just to chat. If she was calling, it meant the news had hit. It meant Wami had already started crying to his mama. Isosa sighed and picked up. Hello, Mrs. Greer. Isosa, baby, can you tell me what is going on? Wami is a mess. He's been screaming since this morning. Nearly broke his phone. He says you ruined his whole trip, the flights, the hotel, everything. I don't understand. He's saying things about you, saying you drove him to the edge, that you controlled his every move. Are you really doing this for revenge? Isosa continued arranging peony-style roses in the display window, putting the phone on speaker. Did he happen to mention that he drained our joint savings and used my personal credit card to pay for a vacation with his new girlfriend? Or did he leave that part out? Silence. Mrs. Greer was clearly caught off guard. Well, he said you were always putting him down, that everything in the house had to be your way, that you treated him like a child and made him feel small. He said he was scared to even open his mouth because you just start shouting. He said you constantly nagged him about not making enough money and that you kept all the power in the finances in your hands. And now he says you're trying to crush him on purpose just to humiliate him. Isosa didn't raise her voice. She sounded tired but calm. Mrs. Greer, I have every single message he sent me saved. Messages where he brags about stealing the money, where he insults my age, where he calls my business a stall. I can send them to you if you want to read them for yourself. There was a long pause, then a quiet voice. No, baby, I don't need to see them. I already told him he was out of line. You don't talk to your wife that way. Just understand, I'm caught in the middle here. I'm not making excuses for him, but he is my son. I appreciate you calling, Mrs. Greer, but right now, while we prepare for court, my lawyer advised me to limit contact with his family. I truly wish you the best. I understand. I really do. It's just hard as a mother. I didn't expect this from him. All right, I won't meddle. Take care of yourself, Isosa. Isosa hung up and put her phone on silent. Nothing new there. The mother was confused, and Wayne was in a panic, and only Isosa knew that everything was going exactly according to plan. By evening, word had traveled through their social circles. According to mutual friends, Wami and Amani were stuck at a budget motel near the airport. It was a place that smelled like stale grease and cheap cleaning products. The flights were gone. The luxury suite was a memory, and his personal cards were all maxed out. Isosa had known this would happen. He had been secretly taking out personal loans for months to keep up appearances. Zuri called. The emergency hearing is set for Monday. We have everything. The written admission of misappropriating joint funds, the unauthorized credit card use, the property deeds. We're moving to freeze his assets. Does he know? Not yet, but he'll be served at that motel tomorrow morning. Have you seen Amani's social media? Of course. It's perfect for us. She's been posting all day about her king and their dream life. The judge is going to love it. Isosa leaned back in her chair. Her cat rubbed against her leg and let out a lazy huff. The house was quiet and peaceful, and for the first time in years, that peace felt earned. Monday was a gray, overcast day, which felt fitting for what was about to happen. The emergency hearing was in family court, room 6. Isosa walked in confidently, wearing a tailored suit and minimal makeup. Beside her was Zuri, her friend since the 9th grade, and a lawyer who was widely feared in the courtroom. Zuri carried a thick, heavy file. Datwame was already there. He was wearing skinny jeans and a bright blue blazer with a shiny lapel that looked ridiculous in a courtroom. His face was puffy, and his eyes were darting around the room. In the hallway, Amani was waiting, her face long, standing on high heels in a short leather jacket. In the harsh daylight of the courthouse, her youth didn't look like an advantage. It looked like foolishness. Compared to Isosa, she was just a girl, and any comparison between them was laughable. The judge was a woman in her late 50s. She opened the session right on time. Case of Isosa Hilliard versus Swami Ame Greer. Subject: determination of property rights, compensatory measures, and preliminary asset protection. Zuri spoke first. Your Honor, you have before you a complete package of evidence. A written admission of the intentional withdrawal of joint funds, unauthorized use of the petitioner's personal credit card, documented transfers to third parties, and a series of disparaging messages intended to discredit my client. We ask for an immediate freeze on all disputed accounts and assets until a final ruling is reached. Kwame's lawyer, a young guy who looked like he had been hired at the last minute, stammered through a response. Your Honor, my client admits he acted impulsively, but the petitioner's reaction is purely out of spite. This was all calculated and pre-planned. Zuri didn't even let him finish. You call it calculated when a person protects their legal property? My client has owned her business as a sole proprietorship since before the marriage. All income goes into separate accounts with independent tax filings. The residence she lives in was an inheritance. Wame Grier has no legal claim to these assets, and we have the documentation to prove it. The judge looked at Wame over her glasses. Mr. Greer, do you admit to spending joint marital funds on a trip with another woman? Well, I just wanted to. He hesitated, then snapped. I was trying to get out of a toxic relationship quickly, without a scene. By using financial manipulation, the judge asked calmly, and now you're claiming rights to a business that, according to these records, was and remains the personal property of your wife. Wami's lawyer tried to interject. But the business grew during the marriage, so a portion should be allocated to my client. Zuri cut him off instantly. The business was registered before the marriage and operated as a separate entity. Under state law, property acquired before marriage remains separate property. Wami Greer never invested a single cent into the business, and we can prove that easily. Wami turned red and tried to say something, but the judge was already reading her notes. The petitioner's claims are backed by documentation. There is clear evidence of misappropriation of marital funds. All disputed assets are hereby frozen. Mr. Greer is ordered to return the funds taken from the joint account within the time frame specified in the court order. Failure to comply will result in a judgment lien. In the case of continued non-compliance, this matter may be referred for criminal investigation regarding financial fraud. But that money is gone, shouted. We spent some of it. Then find a way to pay it back, the judge said flatly. And please stop saying we. You committed these financial violations personally. This session is adjourned. Isosa didn't rush to leave. She watched Asqua awkwardly grabbed his jacket, fumbling with the sleeves, looking lost. In the hallway, Amani rushed up to him. I don't understand, babe. What about the trip to the islands? You said you'd handle it, you promised. It just things happened. Amani, I didn't know she had planned all this. But the tickets, the money, Amani's eyes flashed. You said you were the man. You said you had everything under control. He stammered, I thought it would be fine. Isosa walked past them without stopping, but she heard him bark after her. You're gonna regret this. I'm not letting this go. I have a right to half. She turned around. There was no anger in her voice, only cold clarity. Your rights ended the moment you decided you could fund your little romance on my dime. Zuri caught up with her at the stairs. How did I look today? Isosa smiled. Incredible. You're the best, Zuri. I owe you. Forget about it. This is what I do. And besides, how could I say no to you? You've helped me out 100 times and never asked for a thing in return. Consider the debt settled. The second hearing took place 2 weeks later. Fallen apart in that time. Isosa could tell just by looking at him. Bags under his eyes, a wrinkled shirt, a glazed look. He had started drinking again. She knew that whenever he hit a wall, he reached for a bottle. It had happened before, and it was happening now. Let me smell your breath. His mother hissed as they entered the courthouse. Mom, don't start. Brushed her off. I just needed to calm my nerves. Nerves? Boy, did you forget how calming your nerves ended last time? You lost your job. You fell asleep in your car. Imani almost called the paramedics. Zuri, watching the scene with Isosa, leaned in and whispered, He's not a husband. He's a 39-year-old toddler. His mother is basically his babysitter. Next thing you know, he'll need her to change his diapers. Isosa let out a small laugh. This time the court finalized everything. Both parties were present for the divorce and the final division of property. Zuri led the process with clinical precision. Your Honor, all disputed assets, the house, the business, the personal savings were established by my client long before the marriage. We have submitted the deeds and the LLC filings. Regarding the joint account, while the funds were marital property, Wame Greer withdrew a significant sum without consent for non-marital purposes. We ask that this be recorded as a dissipation of marital assets and that my client be compensated accordingly. The judge looked at the papers, then at Kame. According to the records from the first hearing, you were ordered to return half of the withdrawn funds. A portion was returned through a high-interest personal loan, which is documented. The remainder is still outstanding. I am reminding you that if this debt isn't settled, the court will authorize the seizure of property. Continued avoidance could lead to legal consequences. Just nodded silently. He had taken out the loan only because his accounts were about to be frozen. He had returned the part the judge made him return immediately, hoping to stall on the rest. But the judge made it clear there would be no more stalling. The marriage was officially dissolved. Isosa kept the brownstone, her floral empire, and her personal savings. Wame walked away with a 10-year-old car, a mountain of debt, and the obligation to pay back the rest of the stolen money. His lawyer vanished immediately after the hearing, disappearing like a draft in the hallway. At the exit of the courthouse, stumbled on the steps and muttered, "You planned this. You set me up beautifully." "No kame," Isosa replied calmly. "I just stopped letting you walk all over me with your dirty boots." Zuri smirked. He did it all to himself from start to finish, and he still wants to blame the weather for falling in a puddle. Classic. They were almost at the exit when a voice called out from the street. "Let's go. I've got dinner started. The soup is getting cold." It was Mrs. Greer standing by her old Chevy holding a grocery bag. "Leave me alone with the soup," Wami snapped. "I'm already miserable." "Oh, you're miserable. Well, come on home then. We'll put you back in your old bedroom. Maybe sleeping under your old high school posters will help you feel better." Zuri snorted, unable to hold it in. I should be taking notes on her. That's the perfect side dish to a court judgment. Isosa laughed softly. With his appetite, he can cook for himself now. Or let his mama do it. I'm done being the chef. Her phone was already buzzing with notifications. A new bulk order for a gala, a corporate inquiry, a repeat client. The Bloom branch was thriving. Life wasn't just moving on. It was finally heading in the direction Isosa had chosen for herself. Once Kwame ran out of money, and the bottle became more common than bread on the table. Everything collapsed for him. Mrs. Greer's prophecy came true. He was fired for cause after showing up to a meeting smelling of bourbon. His career was over. A week later, Amani packed her bags and left. No drama, no explanation, just silence. As soon as she realized the money was gone, and he was living with his mother, the romance evaporated. Later, rumors reached Isosa that Wame was hanging around betting shops, hoping for a big win, or borrowing money from his mother, then his father, then his mother again. One day, Mrs. Greer called Isosa herself. Her voice sounded exhausted. "Isosa, I'm not calling for him. I'm calling as one woman to another. He's like a suitcase without a handle in this house now. He ruined his own life, and he's trying to ruin ours. His father and I are thinking about putting him in a program because this isn't living, and he started taking money from my purse recently. He admitted it later. I just wanted to tell you, you did the right thing. You got out just in time." Isosa listened in silence. Those words of validation from Mrs. Greer felt like the final period at the end of a long, difficult sentence. It was finally over. The Bloom branch, meanwhile, was blossoming in every sense of the word. By the third year, her team had doubled. Florists, designers, delivery drivers, and a marketing specialist had launched a high-end website, added full-service event planning, and opened a studio for floral workshops. Her new boutique, the fourth one, opened in the city center with a grand gala and live jazz. There were floral arches, champagne with fresh berries, and 100 smiling faces. During the opening, Amani walked in. She was dressed in professional office attire now, carrying a portfolio with a slightly apologetic smile. She walked up to Isosa and said quietly, "I know. Back then I thought he was one of a kind. Then I realized he treats everyone the same way. I just wanted to say I didn't mean you any harm. I just got caught up in it all, but the rose-colored glasses are off now. Better late than never. Thank you for coming," Isosa replied briefly, then turned to her next guest. She knew Amani was still young and inexperienced. It was pointless to hold a grudge. Everyone makes mistakes. Later, a new employee, a bright young woman named Nia, came up with a question about the inventory. As Isosa answered, she caught her reflection in the glass of the display case. She didn't see an exhausted woman. She saw someone confident, powerful, and at peace. The version of herself Kame never wanted to see. He had waited for her to break, but instead she had bloomed. On the wall of her office, under her business license and an award for Small Business of the Year, hung an old screenshot. It was that message from Kwame. "Good luck with your little shop. At least you'll have something to do in your old age. LOL. Underneath it was a small plaque. Sometimes the best revenge is simply your success. A year after opening her 5th boutique, Isosa threw a small party for her staff and clients. Music filled the room, Buckets were overflowing with fresh stems, and the food was from the cafe next door, where everyone knew her name. In the corner, on a plush velvet chair, her Chartreux cat sat like a little queen. Someone accidentally dropped a balloon, and the cat slowly swatted it toward a massive bouquet of gladiolus. Perfect, Isosa laughed. Even she knows where to put the trash. One of the guests walked up, pointing to a flower with unusual vibrant petals. What is this? I've never seen it before. That is Liatric. Isosa replied. The flower of strength. It's given to celebrate victory and liberation. To me, it's a symbol that you can always start over beautifully and without a war. The guests cheered. Someone winked, someone else smiled, and Isosa took one more look around the room, full of life, full of color, and saturated with fragrance. Everything that had been built, from the first stem to the last brick, was hers, and no one could ever take it away from her again. Did you like the story? And which city are you listening from? Thank you so much for your sweet support. I'm looking forward to your comments on the story. On the screen, you can see 2 new life stories that I highly recommend. There's so much more on my channel. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next life story. With love and respect.